That is what leadership looks like. Changing the way things are done. Because we have leaders put into positions of power for the very reason that we collectively aren't able to effectively anticipate and react to changing circumstances in a way that moves us all forward. So we create systems and structures, and we create roles for leaders to guide us through uncertainty. And that's being open to a constant state of change, being accepting constantly of changing the ways that we're responding to whatever's going on in the world. Think about it on a personal level. My life is always changing. The realities that I'm facing day to day are always shifting in some way, bringing me into new types of challenges. And maybe today to tomorrow might be pretty much the same. But a few years ago to today, a remarkable difference in change. And 5 years, 10 years from now, totally different circumstances. And I need to be in a position in life to grow, to see and adapt and respond to these changing circumstances. I need to be a leader in my life. Otherwise, I'm going to keep repeating the same cycles and going over and over again, never growing, having the same types of conflict with myself, with others, having the same kinds of expectations about the way things are supposed to work. Even if it's not working out, I'm still maintaining that same expectation. And that's stuck in a cycle. Being a leader is being one who has a kind of character and nature that can achieve escape velocity from those cycles, and one who applies that and develops that. So like a muscle, it's something, a way of being that we build over time, or we're invited to build over time. And so a leader is one who brings that into bear. So how, for myself, how can I be a leader in my own life? So there are a lot of ways where I need to grow. And in my marriage, there are a lot of ways where we need to grow. And being a leader looks like, for me, changing the way I pay rent. Rather than figuring it out when rent is due, and trying to organize and pull together our collective resource, well, let me anticipate that and let me pay rent the day before it's due. Oh, okay. Now that's 5 less days of the month where I have to be thinking in the back of my head, all right, when am I going to do this? When are we going to do this? We didn't give it to the landlord yesterday, we forgot. So then it's a thing that just sits there, that's occupying mental resources that I could instead use, now that I've developed a leadership in that capacity, to explore other ways to develop a leadership in my life. Mental energies, our emotional energies, are critically important to consider in where's our head at day to day? And what are these things that we can do that will eliminate having to be there in the future? Even if it's shaving off a couple days a month of being there, well, what does that look like? And then what does that free us up to do? Things like that, opportunities like that to grow ourselves, maybe become more mature, or maybe become more adept at a certain skill we're trying to develop. We have to be a personal leader in order to move forward down that path, because we have to be willing to make sacrifices. We have to be open to changing the way that we're doing things. Why does it let's look at now the macro. And if that's going on in our personal lives, and all of our personal lives are full of all this kind of this chaos and bringing order out of chaos and dealing with this flux of entropy, and that's happening everywhere on a personal level with all of us, because things are changing. How much more opportunity for growth and development is there in these systems and structures that we put into place to help mitigate and deal with that entropy, and to help us achieve certain kinds of individual and collective goals? Those systems also are existing in an environment of constant change. So a leader is one who is not afraid of change, and who is able to organize out of chaos a path that responds in some newer, novel, or better, or in some way more meaningful way to chaos, and is able to build a future worthy of building out of what might be considered an infinite array, an infinitely complex reality. A leader is one who sees a path and is able to move forward to define a future through a space that is overwhelming, both in opportunity and in fear, and in all types of avenues. So the provocation is, how might we grow as leaders in our personal lives? How might we grow as leaders socially, collectively? And how might we reframe or consider our definition of leadership and what we think ought to be the nature of a leader? And from that reframing, how can we use that lens to look at life, look at opportunities, look at our leadership structures, look at who we're putting into power, look at how we're thinking about what is power and how do you come into power, and who ought to be in power, and what should that way of being a leader look like? And then actualize on that. Here is to new leadership.